couple glitches going on here. I don't know what's going on. Why we're using 56% CPU, I'm not sure. I feel like there's a little bit of a frame issue going on. Okay, hopefully not. Let's see if we can get it figured out. Good morning, everyone. Or afternoon, as the case may be. Yeah, I feel like I'm asking too much of my PC for some reason. How about we get rid of Chrome? Let's see, we don't need hook as a source. Let's get rid of that. Oh, I love how it kills the music every time I do anything. That somehow dropped it to 40%. Let's see what else is open here. Try to use studio mode to do it. Welcome, 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 everybody. Oh well, it'll just have to be what it is. 50% CPU usage is a little bit abnormal, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I'll take myself out of my recording channel and close Discord since I don't need that anymore. Welcome, 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 everybody. Let me find my own stream now, somehow on Firefox. So I can get chat back up. Yeah, something is seriously wrong. Discord is still open, even though I closed it. Kill that. Oh, look, instantly better frame rate. CPU down to 20%. No idea what that was about. Let me find my own stream now. How am I still sweating with the windows open? Ah. Welcome, 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 everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Won't let me mute my stream. Frame rate. There we go. We're having all the technical difficulties here, and I don't know what I did differently, but welcome, everybody. I am Leonard French, your favorite blurry copywriter. Why am I blurry?
Huh?
What?
She pulled my needle out.
Oh, nice. Nice. Discord likes to eat CPU. Yes, welcome everyone. I'm going to close that now. And I'm just going to close Firefox for now and leave this chat window open. That's about it. That's what we're going to do. So welcome everybody. I am Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and we waited too long to make a video, so we're doing a live stream now. But we've been rescued. We have been rescued by Take-Two Interactive, who has filed a lawsuit against Jonathan Wyckoff for the Red Dead Redemption remake. You might be aware that there was a Red Dead Redemption remake in the works for a while now, and since at least August, the Red Dead Redemption Damned Enhancement project had been posted by Damned Dev on August 12th. I'm guessing that that is either Jonathan Wyckoff or very much related to him because he has been sued. So I thought we would go over this. How is everybody? CPU, it's what's for dinner. Fun, a YouTube live stream. Yes, welcome everyone. Let me just switch this over to the whole live chat and not just top live chat. There we go. So this is Take-Two Interactive Software versus Jonathan Wyckoff. Now what we do here on Lawful Masses some of this is low-hanging fruit. It's absolutely true that sometimes I just want to bring a new lawsuit to your attention so you can see something interesting about the law and maybe learn something along the way. So sometimes it is just me reading a lawsuit, but that's the point. I'm specifically addressing the issue of people not wanting to read lawsuits, so hopefully this brings some light, literally, hi, light, onto a lawsuit. So let's get started right now. So this is Plaintiff Take-Two Interactive by and through its attorneys, hiring Kirkland and Ellis, by the way. Notice Joshua Simmons and Kirkland and Ellis are representing many devs and plaintiffs. I believe they were behind one of the Epic Games lawsuits too. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong, but they're definitely another plaintiff. It might have been the Twitch one. I'm not sure. It might have been both. But they're behind a bunch of these. That's cool. If you are a dev and you need help with this level of lawsuit, Kirkland and Ellis is a major law firm that will be able to help you and ask for compensation as such. So if you brought a similar claim to a smaller law firm, they might not ask you for as much money, but they're not as experienced as maybe this one is. So keep that stuff in mind when you are trying to pick out an attorney. You need to find the right attorney for you, somebody who is experienced in what you're doing. In this case, they seem to be filing a bunch of these kinds of lawsuits against cheaters and hackers, and in this case, someone who is remastering a game, in their opinion, likely against copyright law. Take-Two brings this action to maintain control over its world-famous video games in the face of Wyckoff's or Wickoff's. I'm going to pronounce it Wyckoff, so if I'm wrong, somebody try to correct me in the chat. He has intentionally, or he has publicly stated his intent to distribute unauthorized software files that would dramatically change the content of Take-Two video games. Those unauthorized changes include, but are not limited to, importing the entire game map of 2010's Red Dead Redemption, we're going to call it 1, into the 2018 game Red Dead Redemption 2, enhancing graphics and visuals in the process, and allowing players to play an enhanced version of the game on personal computers, a platform which Take-Two itself has not yet released for the Red Dead Redemption game 2. And then they go into who Take-Two Interactive is, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 2, and I believe they're the publisher, not necessarily the developer, but somebody would be able to remind me who has. I thought it was Rockstar was the developer of Grand Theft Auto, but Take-Two claims to be a developer as well. In contravention of Take-Two's intellectual property rights, Wyckoff has created and intends to publicly release 2 software projects that create unauthorized versions of the games. Although Take-Two has repeatedly asked Wyckoff to cease and desist, he has refused to honor Take-Two's requests, forcing Take-Two to take action against him. Now, what in the world could possibly be the basis for their complaint? Aren't you totally allowed to go take their original video game and make a remastered version of it? No. I'm not even sure where a person gets the idea that they're legally allowed to do that. Certainly, I understand how someone gets the idea that they're physically capable of doing it, where many developers, many amateur developers, many lawyers who used to be developers are well aware of how easy in concept it is to take digital files and code and things and assets for those that are loaded by those code and compiled by that code, and remaster them. It's not easy in practice because there's always glitches along the way, and of course you have to do the actual underlying work of the remaster, and that is all something that the copyright owner has the right to control. Under 17 U.S.C. 106, you have the right to control the making of copies, the publishing of the original, controlling the derivative works, which would be works that are based on the original. But Mr. French, fair use, he has a fair use. Let's go over the fair use factors instead of just concluding fair use. And the fair use factors obviously go in favor of Take-Two Interactive. There's a 4th factor. It is the market usurpation factor. The original copyright owner has the right to exploit their copyrighted work and control derivatives and They get to then exploit their derivatives that they control. So if you're making an unauthorized derivative and then either selling it, or even if you give it away for free, you are still usurping the market. People will go and get your copy instead of the original work, and the original copyright owner has the right to exploit those works. But Mr. French, they didn't make it available on PC. We're just translating it from one medium to the other. Maybe there's an argument that if you purchased a copy for one platform, you might be okay altering that copy so it can play on a different platform, but you have to find a copyright exception or exemption for that. Simply altering it to play on another platform could also then be considered either usurping the market or just plain old direct copyright infringement. If it's just for your copy, probably there's nothing Take-Two Interactive is actually going to do about it. But if you're then redistributing your instructions on how to circumvent copyright technical protection measures and then how to alter the copy to make it play on a different platform or something, that's also pretty clearly copyright infringement. And then if you're going further and you actually have to create a derivative work and alter game files to make it run and everything, well, that's Take-Two's control and ownership and purview, and they can do that. Which I'm assuming they're going to say all this stuff in here, but I haven't read through it yet, so let's take a quick look. We're not going to get through their entire complaint. What I want to get to is their memo for a preliminary injunction. That'll have a lot more of the salient details in it, probably compressed into a shorter motion, because the complaint is 55 pages, I think, with exhibits. The first software project that Wyckoff has announced modifies and alters Red Dead Redemption 2 to add the full Red Dead Redemption 1 game map into the Red Dead Redemption 2 game map. This is the RDR2 project, they'll refer to it as. This significant alteration to RDR2 would dramatically change the RDR2 game experience. Even if it's for the better, that still counts. Reduce the interest of players in purchasing a future RDR1 PC version, there's the market usurpation, or as an add-on map product, and deprive Take-Two control over its, it says valuable products, I'm going to say copyrights, basically. The second software project is the Red Dead Redemption Damned Enhancement project, which would import modified game files from GTA 5 and RDR1 to improve the graphics and performance of the game, which players can then use to play an enhanced version of RDR1 on PCs, a platform where Take-Two has not yet made the game playable, therefore destroying the market, I would say usurping, the market for an official updated version from Take-Two and creating competition for Take-Two's version. So in other words, even if we don't like, as a community, we don't like the fact that Take-Two doesn't immediately put out a PC version. What is it? Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding is not on PC. That doesn't mean that you can just go take the game code off the disk, reverse engineer it, and then put it on PC and wipe your hands clean of any liability. They have the ability to control the release of these things, and the community does not automatically own the copyrights, literally rights, to the thing just because we like the game. It doesn't work like that, and I'm really not sure how people get that idea that just because it's technologically possible, that it means that it's perfectly legal to take someone else's work. Let's see what the chat has to say about this. Meanwhile, Nintendo, says Taylor Keating, Nintendo goes after everything. Yes, Nintendo is the next story we're going to do, not on this live stream, but probably on Sunday. Nintendo is suing ROM Universe, and ROM Universe has claimed first sale as a defense, which is not how that works. There's actually appeals court rulings on not being able to take your copy of a Nintendo game and translating it into a digital uploadable copy and uploading it to ROM Universe. That's not the same thing as first sale, but let's continue. Wyckoff apparently believes that his RDR2 project and files are permissible because they purportedly will not work with the multiplayer versions of the game. He claims he disabled the user's ability to play them with his infringing programs by writing code that will brick the multiplayer version of the game, but users likely could easily circumvent that code, such that changes that the infringing programs would make to the single-player versions of the games would readily become available for multiplayer versions as well. So even if he disclaims any enabling of multiplayer, they think it can still be done. And they say, although Wyckoff portrays himself as a hobbyist who is creating the things for free, he actively solicits donations to fund the development of his unauthorized projects, which he then uses to drive followers to his social media and streaming accounts. Wyckoff is well aware that the RDR2 project and damned Enhancement project are unauthorized. Because Take-Two had hoped to resolve the parties' dispute without requiring judicial intervention, it contacted Wyckoff prior to bringing this lawsuit and demanded that he cease his willful and infringing conduct. Willful and infringing conduct would then put it into a different category of copyright damages. Instead of a maximum of $30,000 in damages for any one infringement, now it's a maximum of $150,000 per infringement. Whatever they're going to whatever any one infringement is. So there's different ways of arguing this. When someone is downloading multiple files, it's easy to say that each file is an infringing copy. When a person is distributing infringing files, it gets a little bit more gray. Usually it's still how many times was the infringing file downloaded, so it could be a number that is multiplied by the number of downloads. So in this case, I'm not sure that Take-Two is so much interested in getting and receiving actual money damages, so much as they are trying to get this project stopped and shut down. Wyckoff not only refused to honor Take-Two's request, he indicated that if Take-Two tried to stop his projects, the infringing files would be leaked by him or others. So now he's threatening to release the files even if he loses the case or loses the dispute. Outside counsel contacted Wyckoff again, reiterating Take-Two's concerns and requests that he confirm no later than November 18th that he had ceased development. He has failed to do so, leading Take-Two to conclude, upon information and belief, that Wyckoff will proceed with his publicly stated plans to release the infringing programs. Now, why do they say this phrase, upon information and belief? That's actually something in the federal rules of civil procedure, I believe it is, where you have to say what your basis for making a claim in a lawsuit is, or making an allegation is. We're going to skip ahead a little bit then. I'm going to go straight to this memorandum of law in support of plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction, where they're going to go over some of these things in more detail and in fewer pages. Oh, we have a sick kitty, apparently. At least we now know which kitty it is. Wyckoff's actions in unilaterally creating and intending to distribute derivative versions of Take-Two Interactive's immensely popular video games is a clear-cut case of copyright infringement and needs to be enjoined to prevent irreparable injury to Take-Two and its fans, as Judge Stanton found in granting a similar injunction last year. So this has already been before a court in another case before Judge Stanton. I'm not sure if that was the same defendant or not. We'll take a look. And they've already referred to this as irreparable injury. I don't think they have any problem meeting the irreparable injury standard, but that's the standard for a preliminary injunction. If you don't have an irreparable injury that is imminent or is already happening, then the judge is not going to be able to grant an injunction. An injunction is when you ask the court to order a party to do something or not do something, as opposed to pay money or not pay money or get money damages as a award. Judges and courts, the whole court system prefers to use money as the medium with which to repair damage the only time that the court is supposed to order somebody to do something or not do something is if they can't award money damages because there's some other kind of injury. In this case, the standard is irreparable injury. It's not something that can be cured with money damages. In short, they say, Wyckoff has announced on the internet that he plans to release software that modifies two versions of the game. His actions would permit an enhanced version of the Red Dead Redemption 1 game to be played on PC, a platform which Take-Two itself has not released the game. Wyckoff has admitted the first set of software files will modify the PC version of Red Dead Redemption 2 to include Red Dead Redemption 1's game map, which would otherwise not exist in Red Dead Redemption 2 PC. And they have cited to the declaration of David Andrews, which we'll get to in a second here. The second set of software files are a direct modification of Red Dead Redemption 1 for Xbox 360 that can be used to play a remastered version of the game on PC. A quintessential case of copyright infringement exists because 1. Wyckoff has reproduced an unauthorized copy of Red Dead Redemption 1 without Take-Two's copy protections and has created, upon information and belief, and intends to distribute Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 files that create derivative versions of the game. It's starting to sound a little bit repetitive here, but let's keep going. Each element of the Second Circuit's four-part test for the issuance of a preliminary injunction is met. Likelihood of success on the merits, irreparable injury, liability. They're supposed to say something about the public's interest as well. Yep, here's irreparable injury. Absent an injunction, Take-Two would be irreparably harmed. They have a carefully thought out plan for the release of their video games. Yes, if you, and this is what the community doesn't like. Now, I don't want to like get on my high horse about devs because you may know that I don't always agree with these. I call them anti-consumer practices, but really what it is a copyright owner is allowed to control the distribution of their work. When Disney, for example, doesn't release a movie on home video for 10 years because they're creating artificial scarcity, and then they release it for a few months or something, and then they pull it again to create more artificial scarcity and drive up the value of their past works, we don't like that. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem like if their work is any good, just put it out there and let me buy it whenever I want, and that'll be it. Instead, this artificial scarcity stuff makes it weird for us consumers. I have to buy an Xbox, and I have to buy a PlayStation, and I have to have a membership to the Epic Games Store, and I gotta have a membership to Steam, and I gotta buy games on one platform and another platform and another and then I gotta keep track of all this stuff, and I gotta keep track of all the cords for everything. I gotta have a different PlayStation controller than an Xbox controller than a PC controller. And yes, there's starting to be some overlap here, like we just got cross-platform play for Rocket League, for example, but there's still a lot of exclusivity and there's still a lot of restrictions, and this makes consumers have to spend more money, which is the whole freaking point from the copyright owner's perspective, that they want you to spend more money, and therefore they get more money for making things complex for you, the consumer. That's why it feels wrong to me. I don't agree with these practices that are so anti-consumer just because they drive up the cost of the price and drive up the revenue of the thing. Now, if I was a major copyright owner, for example, we want to make Lawyer Simulator. If I was a major copyright owner and we were suddenly a major video game developer or something, I might also want to maximize my profits. Maybe Leonard French will get there and not be a complete jerk about it, but some developers don't have any shame or any qualms or any understanding of why consumers would be upset at things like Epic Games exclusivity or Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo exclusives. And those things, though, are also the behaviors that make a video game company secure. So Take-Two, Rockstar, Nintendo, Epic, their futures are all very secure because they have lots of money and they add these restrictions. If these restrictions didn't work, they wouldn't use them. It's because these restrictions are legal and work that they do them. So we have to find some other basis to, you know, have the video game community that we want. We aren't going to be able to convince companies like Blizzard to, you know, fight for free speech, because free speech doesn't really make them money. If they want to be in the Chinese market, they're going to censor themselves because that's what China wants, and there's a lot more money there than free speech. Even if free speech made a lot of money, it's going to only make money from 300 million people in the US, and there are probably 1.2 billion people in China now, and others around the world too, that might be interested in keeping some censorship alive, like we saw with Blizzard in Hong Kong. So back to this. Yeah, let's see what's going on. Yes, Lawyer Simulator. Well, we'd like to release Lawyer Simulator version 1, like as a Steam early access thing in 2020. I think that's what we'd like to do. We'll see, though. I really need to dedicate myself to writing, and as you've seen, you know, we get pulled in many different directions. For example, we're now raising money for Chris Taylor, who is Neris, I believe that's how you pronounce it, on Twitter. He's the gentleman who had an unfortunate death in the family, left him with a lot of debt, and he had to move across country to find a better cost of living, phrase I'm looking for. And he did so in a big yellow school bus. And that made it onto Reddit, made it into the news. And he's a big 3D printing. He has a lot of passion for 3D printing, and now one of his 3D printing files was taken down from Thingiverse after a complaint from Elderwood Games over the hexagonal-shaped dice box with a particular hexagonal pattern in the box part inside. And so we're raising money to fight that trademark. If you would like to contribute to that, someone will maybe Tactical or Joe. Well, Joe's in the hospital. Tactical can maybe post the link to our GoFundMe there. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Players who play Red Dead Redemption 2 with Wyckoff's infringing software files will be deterred from purchasing future upgraded versions of Red Dead Redemption 1 from Take-Two Interactive. Once Wyckoff's game files have saturated the market, money damages would be insufficient to compensate Take-Two because Take-Two would have no way of... What's going on back there?
I have no clue. That's Lucy now in the little tray for the past 3 minutes.
Okay, well, maybe she's going to be feeling better after she's done. Money damages would be insufficient to compensate Take-Two because Take-Two would have no way of knowing how many players opted to forego purchasing the titles from Take-Two because they already had access to Wyckoff's free infringing software game files. What else is this? This is more or less riding on the coattails of someone else's work. If we back off of any hatred of Take-Two or large video game developers or something, which is kind of unfounded without more, oh my goodness, poor cat. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with her. Maybe she has to go to the vet or something.
We'll keep an eye on it. She apparently ate at some Rusty. That's what she just threw up.
Okay. Yeah, we have one of our cats has decided to try and eat all the people food, and we have had to do things like, you can't see it in the background, but behind that Christmas tree is our recycling bag, which we've had to hang, kind of like you would do for a bear. Like if you're camping, you would hang your bear bag up in a tree, like off a branch on a rope, so the bear can't get to your garbage and your food. We have to do that with the cat now because that cat has started to climb into our garbage bags, climb into our recycling bags, and try to eat everything she's not supposed to eat. Honey, why don't you just go lay down? Yeah, that's unfortunately we have a cat who is just suddenly become very unhappy with her cat food and wants all the people food. I'm not exactly sure how to handle it, so we're just keeping an eye on her, and it's literally just happened. All right. So what are we saying? I was talking about how Take-Two does have the right to control this and how this person is riding on their coattails. Somebody said, so modders are bad. Well, that's an awfully conclusory statement without looking into any of the details of a situation. No, modders are not automatically bad. Modders are not automatically bad. What we're talking about is if you release unauthorized derivative works, which a mod could be. It depends on the mod. You have to look into the details. Lawyers like to look into the details, and this is the reason. If the mod is basically a remaster of the entire game, no, that's probably not authorized by any law, including fair use, and you would have to seek permission from the copyright owner while the work is copyright protected. If the mod simply adds something that doesn't create a derivative work or doesn't implicate fair use or doesn't fail a fair use test or something. Let's say you created a mod, because I want to make a real clear example, not one in the middle. I want to make a real clear one. Let's say you created a mod that made Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC. So if someone owns a licensed copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC, let's say your mod alters the colors to make them more colorblind friendly. I have, as a defense attorney, a much easier time accepting that as a fair use or exempted kind of thing where it's not copyright infringement, and I would have a much easier time defending a mod that made the game accessible. Somewhere in there is the line. Somewhere in between is my line, at least. And I'm sure that there could be other attorneys out there who disagree and think that even an accessibility mod would be crossing the line. But I would have much easier time arguing that before a judge than if you are remastering Red Dead Redemption 1, which was never released on PC, so that it can run on PC in an enhanced version, in an enhanced graphical form. That is someone taking advantage of Take-Two Interactive's release schedule. It is, again, we can argue all day if it is anti-consumer and should be allowed, but it is allowed. It is allowed by the law that the copyright owner can protect their work and can control the creation and release of derivatives. They keep going that the unauthorized game file release will cause a profound loss of control of Take-Two's games, which is manifested in several different ways. It will deprive them of control over its products. It will deprive them of control of the games or impair or eliminate quality control measures. That's true. Take-Two would not have the ability to do quality control on Wyckoff's mod without his efforts having kind of a coercive effect, like, well, you did it, and so in order for us to have control, we have to like pay you or hire you or something like that. And that's not how this works. You cannot coerce yourself into a relationship. However, feel free to, if you want to make a mod like this, feel free to reach out to developers and ask, but you have to accept when no is the answer. And no will probably be the answer the vast majority of the time if you are not a major game studio who is offering to do the work for a reasonable amount of pay, and you're not in the position to do that. If you're just a Star Trek fan that wants to make a new Star Trek series, well, you have to get their permission. You don't own Star Trek. Same thing here. This guy does not own the overall, copyright ownership of Red Dead Redemption, and so he can't just release their game. No amount of money can compensate Take-Two for this harm. Wyckoff's project appropriates Take-Two's intellectual property for his own purposes, generates no revenue for Take-Two, and prevents Take-Two from controlling quality or content. These are all just arguments. It doesn't mean that if you paid Take-Two that you can just automatically do it. Again, they're pointing out that they're not getting paid, not that they're saying If he just paid us, we'd be okay with it. That's not what they're saying, and don't read it that way. Let's see. How can you own it if they are no longer selling it? Uh, I mean, do I own this bottle of well, this is a Nivea, not a Labello. But do I own this lip balm just because I'm not selling it? Yes, I still own it, even if I'm not selling it. Jeez. As to the third element, the balance of hardships, this is part of the preliminary injunction standard. Which party has the hardships of a preliminary injunction? Take Two would be irreparably injured. Meanwhile, Wyckoff would only experience the loss of his ability to infringe, which is not a recognizable or cognizable harm under the law. The fourth element involves the public interest. And yes, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the Constitution is the copyright clause, and the public interest is served by furthering that clause, which is in furtherance of protecting the sciences and furthering the sciences and useful arts. So I would say that game development is both a little bit of a science and a lot of a useful art. After repeated efforts to encourage Wyckoff to stop voluntarily, those efforts were rebuffed. Take Two has no choice but to file this action. So they go into a lot of the factual background and how they created everything. And this is going to be quite long because they've got to inform the judge on everything that's going on. The judge has to understand everything from this one document. Wyckoff has announced that he created and intends to distribute and or maintain software files that modify Take-Two's RDR games. The first, well, they go into that. We've already gone over that a couple times. We have two parts, the putting of the Red Dead Redemption 1 game map into Red Dead Redemption 2 PC, and then enhancing Red Dead Redemption 1 as well. That one's the DEP, or Damned Enhancement Project. Who is messaging me? Question from the audience. What about a PC porting mod for a non-remastered version of RDR1? Would that be less market usurping? It does. It sounds like it would be less market usurping, but it still sounds like it would be over the line in market usurpation. Porting a game is not something that is considered an exception to copyright or a fair use. I can't see any way that if I choose, let's take an existing example, and then let's go back to like an orphaned work, see where the line is here. Again, this is how the tool of hyperbole is supposed to be used. You find the boundaries and then see where your threshold is. So porting a game, if we were to say Untitled Goose Game, which is a Nintendo and Epic exclusive right now. Let's say that Leonard French has figured out how to get the binaries off of the Epic Games Store and distribute them through Steam. So porting a game from Epic to Steam, or let's say porting it to another is it on, I don't know if it's on Xbox and PlayStation. Do we know?
Not that I know of.
So let's say we ported it to Xbox or PlayStation. Yes, obviously, House Development has a right to control which platform Untitled Goose Game is released on right now. Now, let's say they stop selling the game and you can't buy it anywhere. Does that change the analysis? No. Is the copyright still on copyright protection? Is it still within the life of the author plus 70 years or 120 years for corporate copyright? Yes, it was just released. So you have to wait the life of the author plus 70 years, which is likely also your life, and you're probably not going to be able to do that, so you have to find something else. You are not allowed to port Untitled Goose Game while they don't want you to, while the thing is on copyright. If we take an old game, let's take an orphaned work. What can I think of would be a game? I don't even know what game has been totally lost to time. That's a really hard one. I really can't think of any that aren't getting picked up and redone and all that. I mean, even BattleTech and MechWarrior and Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 and all that stuff is still quite What are we doing here? Who is messaging me now? People are trying to say that Red Dead Redemption 1 is abandoned, which is, yeah, kind of bugs me too. Maybe make the point. Yeah. So what is the function of abandoning a trademark, or excuse me, abandoning a copyright? What? I'm not sure I've ever heard those words together. I said the word trademark because the first thing I thought of was abandonment of trademark. Yes, if you are no longer selling, if you are no longer using a trademark in commerce, you can lose that trademark, and that's can be called abandonment. But someone still has to make a opposing action before the Trademark Trials and Appeals Board. I don't believe you just get to start using their trademark while their trademark is still registered. And maybe if you did, and then they came after you, you could make a defense of trademark abandonment. But as much as we are talking about a trademark here, we're also talking about copyright infringement. And there is no such thing as abandonment of copyright infringement or abandonment of copyright. Certainly, I could assign my copyright to the public domain, and then I can't get it back once I've assigned it to the public domain. So show me a document where Take-Two Interactive affirmatively expressly signed away their rights to Red Dead Redemption 1. I don't see it. I see no evidence of it, and I doubt any of you have that. So that's not going to be it. It's not going to be something where they abandoned copyright. Let me see where this abandonment of copyright even comes in, like where somebody would have gotten this idea. Like, what is a ban? Is this like something from sovereign citizen stuff? Dedication to the public domain when a copyright owner intentionally gives up copyright protection. It's exactly what I just said. It is an assignment, an affirmative assignment of copyright to the public domain. So show me where they signed away expressly in writing their ownership of the copyright to Red Dead Redemption 1. They didn't, but okay, somebody can show me that. Go ahead. I'll wait. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a delay between what I say and what everybody types, but I'm going to guess that nobody actually has that. So, no, you are not abandoning your copyright because you control sales. And that is, I don't even know where that argument comes from, that except maybe a misunderstanding of the law or an intentional misrepresentation of the law. Keep going here. To make the Red Dead Redemption Enhancement project, Wyckoff first ripped a copy of Red Dead Redemption 1 for 360, dumped the copy into his computer for further modification. He modified the game files using code from GTA 5 for use on a third-party program to play an enhanced version of Red Dead Redemption 1 for free on PC, a platform which it has not been released. He has wrongly claimed publicly that the projects are permissible as they will only modify the single-player RDR 1 and 2 games. Wyckoff makes this assertion because he claims he has disabled the ability of the infringing programs to be available in multiplayer versions of the games. Putting aside his flawed reasoning, however, his underlying assumption is also incorrect, as any code that Wyckoff has written for this purpose will likely be easily deleted or otherwise circumvented, so modifications to the single-player games will be available in the multiplayer games as well. And I'm not even sure what that changes. If it's your copy of a single-player game that you're modifying yourself, that sounds okay. But copyright law does not allow the distribution of certain kinds of things. And if he has to distribute files that take from the games, that's going to be a derivative work. If he has to circumvent technological protection measures, that's going to be DMCA 1201. Again, don't shoot the messenger. If you don't like this, that's fine. I don't like some of these things either. I don't know that I'm advocating for a law that Take-Two Interactive has to provide Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC. That's not what I'm talking about. My version of disagreeing with this might be I'd like to see shorter copyright terms. Disney, among many other copyright plaintiffs or owners, advocated for extremely long copyright protection periods, even though they are longer than the life of people, and no one in their own lifetime would really be able to use a copyrighted work that came off of copyright that was created during their lifetime and then it came off copyright in their lifetime. I would like to see maybe maybe not life of the author, maybe just 40 years or maybe just 30 years for copyright. I would like to see a little faster cycle here so that people can take advantage of the public part of copyright, the public domain works, and make new derivative works from things while they're still alive. But I can also see arguments that making something for an audience while they're in their childhood and then bringing it back when they're in adulthood might be something that we protect. So it might have to be 40 or 60 years. But right now, it's the life of the author plus 70 years. That's basically 2 lifetimes. Not enough for anyone to really do anything with anything while they are still alive. But that's just my take on it. Certainly, smarter people could come up with better ideas. Let's see. In advance of the release of the infringing programs, Wyckoff has solicited donations. Even platforms that generate no sales revenue can be used to raise millions or billions of dollars. I don't know how much money he's raised, but one of the things they'll get to ask about in a lawsuit is how much money he's raised, and he'll have to disclose that to them. That will be something that is relevant to the claims and damages and defenses at issue. And so they did reach out to him, like we said, and they start arguing the law. So this was, like we said before, the 4 factors of a preliminary injunction: likelihood of success on the merits, irreparable harm without an injunction, balance of hardships between the parties tipping in the favor of the requesting party, and non-disservice of the public interest. That's a simplification of it, but the preliminary injunction should serve the public interest. So saying non-disservice is kind of a double negative. It is a double negative. So copyright infringement requires proof that plaintiffs have a valid copyright and defendant infringed on. Yes, I have an appointment in half an hour. Okay. The defendant infringed on the plaintiff's copyright. As to the first prong, yes, Take-Two owns the thing. Second prong, Wyckoff is infringing in 3 ways: by reproducing an unauthorized and infringing copy of Red Dead Redemption 1 from Xbox 360. The infringing programs install modified files into Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, creating unauthorized derivatives. And third, they violate the licensing conditions. Let's not forget about those. You are not buying a copy of the game. You are buying a license along with the files to run the game. We don't like that. As an attorney and as a person who loves copyright and as a person who plays video games and reads books and likes audiobooks and all that, I do not like the fact that I don't actually own my copies. And this is why I still buy cartridges for Nintendo games, because at least now I have a copy that is owned. But the world is moving to digital, and the courts recognize that digital copies, depending upon what the license is, they have basically an unlimited life. And so the Second Circuit in the Redigi case, Capitol Records versus Larry Rudolph over Redigi, said that you can't sell digital files. They do not fall under the first sale doctrine. We'll go over that more in the ROM Universe case, which is probably something we'll do tomorrow. But you do not own, you don't have the same level of ownership as in a hard copy, or rather in a digital copy. You don't have the same level of ownership in a digital copy as you do in a hard copy. And even then, distributing files to others is distributing a derivative work. So they're saying that he has made unauthorized copies making unauthorized copies is a quintessential copyright infringement. Wyckoff admits that he's infringing Take-Two's reproduction right because he had to rip the copy of Red Dead Redemption 1 from Xbox 360 onto his PC in order to make it work. Okay, I see the argument, but I also see the reverse argument that it was his copy to do with as he pleases. So far, I'm not too ticked off at him from a legal perspective if he has simply ported his own copy to PC. But the fact that he's going to then turn around and help others do it, that might be copyright infringement. Now, on the other hand, if it is simply him giving instructions as to how other people can find and do all these things with their own files, that's much less likely to be copyright infringement. It comes down to the actual details. It's very important that we read the details. Now what's going on? Sure, what happened with the Game Genie, for example? Game Genie would modify the files that were on a cartridge, but only as they go through to the console. Is this the same? Could this person introduce a device that somehow alters the code as it's passing back and forth? Maybe, except Game Genie came before the DMCA. Game Genie was not something that was circumventing technological protection measures to the best of my knowledge. But let's take a quick look at the history of the Game Genie case. Louis Galoob Toys v. Nintendo of America was 1992, so that's before the DMCA, was a court case that established the rights of users to modify copyrighted works for their own use. The case revolved around whether or not the Game Genie device could modify video games in real time and whether that constituted a derivative work. The court battle began in 1990. Galoob filed complaint against Nintendo seeking a declaratory judgment. So Nintendo had made some threats and Louis Galoob Toys, Game Genie, moved forward. A previous case had been decided in favor of the copyright holder. Nintendo relied heavily on Midway Manufacturing versus Arctic International. In July 1990, the court granted Nintendo a preliminary injunction preventing Galoob from selling the Game Genie until the court matter was resolved. Nintendo had to post $100,000 at first and then $15 million to ensure that Galoob could be compensated for sales loss during the injunction. Galoob appealed the injunction and lost. After over a year of legal wrangling, so they lost, they can't sell the Game Genie, and now they're still fighting. The trial concluded in 1991. District Judge Fern Smith ruled in favor of Galoob, declaring that the Game Genie did not violate Nintendo's copyrights. In her ruling, Smith compared usage of the Game Genie to skipping portions of a book or fast-forwarding through a purchased movie. Thus, the altered game content did not constitute the creation of a derivative work as Nintendo had argued. Smith wrote that, having paid Nintendo a fair return, the consumer may experiment with the product and create new variations of play for personal enjoyment without creating a derivative work. Nintendo appealed the verdict to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, but lost as the Ninth Circuit affirmed the lower court's decision. So, is this case with Red Dead Redemption, is that like fast forwarding through a book? Does it allow you to skip portions of the game? Does it allow you to experience portions of the game in a slightly altered personal way? No, it is remastering the entire game from scratch and usurping the market. Now, is there a Game Genie argument here? Maybe. I'd bet you if I was a defense attorney, this would be one of the better defenses that we could make, but I still think it is a losing argument, as what the Game Genie did was simply alter the game on your console, so it's not transposing it from one console, it's not porting it from Xbox 360 to PC. So you're not gaining the benefit of porting from one to the other using Game Genie, but you are in the Red Dead Redemption case. So if it was just altering it on Xbox 360, much better argument. Much better argument. Now, what about if it is altering it by remastering it? That's a little less. For fair use, or a little bit less personal to me. In order to remaster it, you have to create better drawings of the game. And how that is happening is going to really, really affect it. If all of the assets are in the game and all you have to do is flip a flag, a binary switch, and all of a sudden the game will load from the new assets instead of the old assets, but all the assets were created by the copyright owner, fine. But if you are taking drawings from the game and models from the game, and you are creating new high-quality models, and then your new models are being put onto a Game Genie cartridge, and that Game Genie cartridge takes the Xbox 360 disc, plugs it into a PC, and suddenly you can run an Xbox 360 disc on a PC with better graphics. I'm not on the Game Genie case. That's not the Game Genie case anymore. And I don't see how this is the Game Genie case. So the hearing was held December 1991 to determine how much of the $15 million bond would be awarded to Galoob. Galoob was entitled to the entire amount plus legal fees. Nintendo appealed and lost again. Now, this is classic Nintendo, right? Like, Nintendo does not believe that anyone has any kind of fair use, copyright, or anything, that they're allowed to do stuff. Like, Nintendo doesn't believe in the first sale doctrine, Nintendo doesn't believe in fair use, and that's all completely wrong. In the States here, we have the benefit of those things, and you can use those rights. Let's see what happened afterward. The Ninth Circuit referred to Galoob in MicroStar versus FormGen, a case involving user-created levels for the video game Duke Nukem. In that case, Judge Kaczynski concluded that the fair use analysis in Galoob is dicta and ruled in favor of the copyright holder. Well, what does that mean? Dicta is non-binding, non-precedential language. So the judge concluded that the fair use analysis in Galoob versus Nintendo is not binding precedent. A 2002 case involving the ClearPlay technology raised a similar issue in the context of home DVDs. At no point was a copy of the DVD made, rather offensive parts of the movie were automatically skipped. Hollywood Studios and the Directors Guild of America sued ClearPlay, alleging copyright infringement and trademark infringement. The case was rendered irrelevant by the passage of the Family Entertainment Copyright Act of 2005, a law that, because of its narrow applicability, did not change Midway or Galoob. And then Sonic Blue was sued over a commercial skipping feature on similar grounds. Your contract when you get the show is you're going to watch the advertisements. Anytime you skip a commercial, you're stealing programming, asserted CEO of Turner Broadcasting Jamie Keller. He admits that there's a certain amount of tolerance for going to the bathroom during commercials. Sonic Blue went bankrupt before the court reached its decision on the merits of the case, so we didn't get one there either. But we did get a lawsuit earlier this year where there was a company using the Family Entertainment and Copyright Act of 2005, which is, again, just for skipping offensive parts, and instead it would actually offer the entire movie for streaming on its own website through its own hosts and making its own money on lower-priced copies of unauthorized copies of works that it believed it was giving you the skipping feature, but it was doing so by giving you the entire copyrighted work minus the skipped parts, as opposed to taking your copyrighted work, your first sale copy, and altering that. So the big difference here is whether Wyckoff is going to be distributing or selling only a device that alters the original to be, skipping parts or maybe, adding cheat codes or something like that. But if the moment that he has to start reproducing the work or porting it over to a different platform, it seems very likely that that is not something that the copyright law will allow. So then back to the case, hey, MicroStar versus FormGen. The Ninth Circuit held that defendant's video game package of user-created levels was a derivative work because the alterations, when applied to MicroStar's video game, relied on the story and creative elements of the original game. The unauthorized alterations infringed MicroStar's copyrights. Similarly, Dun & Bradstreet Software versus Great Consulting has to be the most interesting case I've ever seen because that's a business software case. The Third Circuit held that the defendant's alteration of a copy of plaintiff's software to add additional features created an infringing derivative work. So yes, you can't necessarily add features, that especially features that make use of the original characters and story and plot and all that. So if you wanted to make Half-Life 3 by making Half-Life 2 and altering it, Valve could come after you. I believe there is a mod called Black Mesa, and if Valve really wanted to go after that, they probably could. Otherwise, the project should have gotten permission to do that, either because Valve has a policy of allowing mods and allowing that kind of thing, or if they don't allow it, you just simply shouldn't do it, or you need to seek permission, and if you don't get permission, you shouldn't do it. We've seen this problem over and over and over again, and while I understand that people want more Star Trek and people want more Red Dead Redemption, and there was another one recently, I forget, but I understand that people want more of these things, but that's the value that's been created by the copyright owner, and those characters and those stories are within the ownership of the copyright owner. And so until those things come off of copyright, like with the author plus 70 years, you do not have the right to make derivative works. And you must, like a lawyer, you have to either study these things or hire a lawyer to tell you what the limits are of what you're allowed to do. Let's see. They keep going. Playing GTA 5 and or the Red Dead Redemption games have violated Take-Two's user agreement. It's okay. I'm not... Oh, okay. So playing the games, having violated the agreement, is also copyright infringement. Well, actually, that's what I happen to know something about too. When you violate a license agreement by committing copyright infringement, that's a contract dispute. At least I believe that's what the Ninth Circuit has said. Maybe something has changed and I'm not 100% up on my case precedent. But my understanding from the last time I researched this very recently is that you can't have both a license agreement regarding copyright and copyright infringement. If he's violating the user agreement, then it's a contract violation and you get contract damages. If he's not violating the user agreement but is committing copyright infringement, that's copyright infringement, that's copyright damages. So there's at least one argument that I think the defendant could make here, that this should be adjudicated under contract law because they're alleging that he violated the license agreement, which is contract. They can probably make multiple claims and let the chips fall where they may and put it all on Wyckoff's shoulders to defend. Here, the license is expressly conditioned on adherence to their agreement. Among other things, it prohibits the creation of derivative works. So they say he is liable for contributory copyright infringement. They ask for the injunction, the preliminary injunction. They say they're going to lose control of their works because of the market usurpation and that they are inadequately compensated by monetary damages. And they ask the judge for what kind of injunction? Let's see. Enter an order Take-Two respectfully requests this court enter an order preliminarily enjoining Jonathan Wyckoff and anyone acting in concert with him from creating and or distributing the Red Dead Redemption 2 project, Red Dead Redemption Enhancement project, or any other software files. So, no, they haven't won, and the judge hasn't granted this. This was literally just filed last night into today. Some of these filings even have December 27th as the date on them. Let's see, here's 26th, here's 20, yeah, here's one that has the 27th on it, here's one that has the 26th on it. David Andrews says he's part of game security operations, and he talks about Take-Two being the developer and how they've released things. So this is all testimony in advance, a declaration, so that they can refer to these statements as being coming from representatives of the company. So he talks about their agreement. He talks about the infringing programs. I fixed my Patreon link. You do not have to, but if you want to support future content and video ideas and more, you can donate. Content creators use this to help them grow. Every bit helps and want to be humble. As stated, not required. Will be grateful that you are not buying anything, but helping me out. Also, if you're from RDR Project, again, you are donating and not buying. So he's trying to make a legal distinction there, and I'm not sure that actually is effective. I'm not sure it actually means anything. This is me against Take-Two, guys. Watch out. Huge RDR2 mod plans coming. I will have an RDR2 project as well. More than a graphics mod for Red Dead Redemption 2. Different game maps, huge virtual worlds. Yeah, we've got all that. Also claims he'll be making various changes to fix elements he does not like, including John Marston's clothing and hair. So that's definitely altering their character. Check out my Buds video, huge things to come. Me and him and others plan to restore as much cut content back to RDR2. Also, RDR2 mod, I'm bricking online multiplayer as well. You seriously think my mods will mess with online Take-Two? Just stop. I'm not toxic nor trying to ruin your games. Respect us customers. Let's see. People want Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC. Well, here it is. With power of emulation and hard work, I present you an enhancement project that makes quality, treat, and more. Version 1 release later this year, and a taste of what to come. He then says about the project is a direct modification of the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 version of the game Red Dead Redemption 1, running on an x64 Windows PC with redefined graphical elements in high quality. Yeah, those are all things that Take-Two is allowed to do and control. He does say that you'll need to buy the game, rip and dump the game, extract the ISO, get the raw files. The mod will not contain the game itself, just the mod. So his arguments are really going to be those Game Genie arguments that he's just altering the existing code and not adding anything. But then I'm not sure how could he be adding enhanced models unless he is somehow also committing copyright infringement. But I'll wait to see what his response is. This was just filed yesterday. Amazing work, brother. Do you have a release date planned later this year, December or sooner? My bet is Xenia, as they are further than RPCS3. I'm not sure. As far as that, I guess it's the emulation engine he's using. He has stated that he will modify the RPF files, which is a proprietary game file format created by Take-Two. Okay. You're editing game files. How do you intend to distribute the mod by RPF files? Easy install for users. The mod already has hundreds of files edited and will be too much for end user to install manually. And they even ask if that's legal. So he is extracting and modifying files and redistributing them according to Take-Two Interactive. And new progress, removed ugly heat haze effect, and game now only loads high and ultra high LODs, which are like distance, load on distance or whatever. I forget what it stands for. An extremely reduced fog and all bloom fully removed. Many tweaks, many more tweaks. This continues. Let's see, I was a part of the Red Dead Redemption 5 or V project before our Rockstar told us to stop. We got tools still from project. It'll be one game. I'll surely create something for. First will be textures, then some RDR2 models like props, and maybe some players and visuals as well. So he has claimed that it will only modify the single player game because he has disabled the ability to play the multiplayer version. And then they believe that that will be easily bypassed and that people will try to play the multiplayer version as well. Anyway, I can join the testing team. Love to work with you guys. Contributor role is given to people who contribute code to the repository. The other issue is it seems risky to endorse such a project to begin with. Could run into legal trouble. There won't be a legal issue with it. Already cleared it with Take-Two. It's an old game now. I don't think he cleared it with Take-Two, but whatever. He tried to add a legal notice. All video game assets shared and displayed are rightful property of Rockstar Games. That doesn't actually do anything, I don't think. Since next month coming, expect RDR2 visual project from me depending on RPF tool release and such. Just to show my lawyer answered my questions, and RDR2, along with planned release of current project, is a green light, he says on October 7th. He does say there is a risk, but the way things are, it's fine. I will have to have a billion warnings and make sure people know. I love risks. Since they chickened out, the risk is very low. I'll film a video at some point. Project now resumed. I'm not standing down. I took extra mile disabling the core multiplayer so they can't use in court. I need your help to make modding safe for everyone else. Project will be released December or sooner. Podcast might be this week or next after my throat heals. They won't know shit. We be anon with torrents to map mods. Let's say if it were to happen, it gets leaked on torrents, maybe. It can be done. That's why I'm releasing my stuff anyways. What are they going to do to me? Sue me. They can't prove it in court. Well, they're going to try. It may get leaked by some private people, it says. So then this is, he then keeps, this is David Andrews, and he keeps talking about then the value of things. Meanwhile, I am running out of time. I have a phone call in a legal matter. So let's just take a quick look at this declaration of Megan McEwen. She says she reached out to him and he did not respond. And that's basically the summary of her declaration. The rest is just a bunch of references to articles and things that they referred to in their complaint and in declarations and such. So then finally, here's the forum post. They include an entire exhibit of all the forum posts for the Red Dead Redemption Enhancement project. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit because this is huge. And so rip and dump the game, extract the ISO. The mod will be 2 RPF files, easy install. And then they continue on the forums where he's replying. Everything visual side and forced highest LODs and more. I have a list of version 1 consists of on the trailer, video description. Much more is done. Version 2 will focus on the model and texture upgrades. And that's, I think, where you run into a problem. It's not just a simple mod that has been tacitly authorized by Rockstar or Take-Two or whoever owns the copyright, but rather it is more than that. Now, certainly, this is only an allegation. If all this is wrong and what he's really releasing is more like the Game Genie case, then hopefully that'll all come out in court. But my initial reaction is that a remaster and porting of a game is well within the original copyright owner's rights. And so Take-Two very likely can control the porting of an older game. Even if it's through a mod of some kind, I don't think that is something that will be allowed by the courts. But I wish Jonathan Wyckoff the best. I hope he really does have this attorney who's willing to defend him from this, because he looks like he's going to need to. When they've requested a preliminary injunction, for example, it gets scheduled. And this one is currently scheduled for, I believe, January 10th or 20th or something. Let me see, I had it up here before, but I think I closed everything when we were having CPU issues before. So sometime in mid-January is when I expect this to be figured out. So thank you for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. And I know this wasn't everybody's favorite thing to hear, that the Red Dead Redemption 2 mod or Red Dead Redemption 1 port and mod and everything is going to be delayed or simply not released because of this. But that's unfortunately how things work in the copyright world. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. However, it's also a lot for someone to promise to deliver all of this when maybe they're not exactly within the realm of copyright. If they really are working with lawyers, I hope their lawyers are right, and then that they win and that we get another case like the Game Genie case. So thank you for our financial supporters. We also require your financial support in order to keep this show going. Thank you to our $50 plus supporters in the month of December: Aspernari, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Evie, Kyle Mudrock, Michael Pierce, Spirit Bear, Jan Negray, Daniel Perez, Snorre Wizatsky, Blackleaf, Joe Tyson, Benjamin Hightoff, Steven, Rumble in the Bunghole, and Cute Grills in your area. I'm going to go make my phone call. I will see you guys later. I love you all. Thank you very much for joining me here, and I will see you in the videos that drop. This one will remain up on YouTube as a video on demand that you can continue to watch. So, love you all.